Hi everybody, I'm KP. I support the platform partnerships team. I have to admit, I cheated a little bit. I used my AI and I asked for advice about how I can make a panel very interesting. And the response was like, you need to bring people that are 10 times smarter than you. So I asked my team, to introduce me to the people that they thought were 10 times smarter than me, but I think they actually got it wrong. You were guys 100 times smarter than me. There are 3 professors on the panel and someone that wants to be one. There are people that work for banks, cool banks though. The DJ CEO makes it super cool in my books. Maybe, you think so the same way. There are others that have been serial entrepreneurs. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves in a second, but I'm just trying to get people excited that are waiting in line for those Nike shoes about this panel. You can open the doors. Maybe the sound will go all the way there, but without further ado, I would love to thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us today. It's a great day for our partners. And Mike, I have a slide for you, but go for it. Tell us who you are.
Okay, hey everybody. I'm Mike Butera, founder and CEO of Artifon. We are reimagining musical experiences from things like devices that let you control music in any way you want and make songs. And now we've been working with Snap for a couple years on AR music, and this idea that we can take really any possible sound and music in the world and play with it embedded in the world, right? Kind of play the world itself as an instrument. So we've been working with all the latest, ML and Scan and now Camera Kit, building an app called Mini Beats that basically feels like Fantasia. So very excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
Thank you, Mike. Yusuf?
Hi, everybody. My name is Yusuf Omar. I am the co-founder of a company called Scene. I am based in Australia, so I'm literally from the future. 15 hours into the future, and the future is amazing. We basically create augmented reality tools that help citizens become journalists, give them all the instructions, all the guidance, all the immersive technology, so that people all over the world can share their lived experiences.
Hi everyone, my name is Maya Pruitt. I'm an AR creator, a verified lens creator, and also an adjunct professor at NYU, where I teach a class called Through the Lens, Modalities of AR. So it's basically an intro to augmented reality, and really start talking about, what do you anchor your AR experiences through? What's the difference between a face lens versus a body lens versus tracking the environment? And I especially really like using Snap ML in my creations, so hoping to talk about that in Lens Studio today.
Awesome.
Charlie?
Hey everyone, I'm Charlie, founder of a platform called Flipgrid. It's a short-form video platform that empowers every pre-K to PhD learner everywhere to share their voice, share their learning, share what they're proud of. We were acquired by Microsoft in 2018, and today it's called Microsoft Flip. I also lead learning and marketplace at Microsoft, but we were one of the very first Camera Kit partners and have just loved bringing it to our users everywhere.
Thank you. So this panel is about innovation. And I know that there are a lot of different definitions about innovation, but in a way, the people that innovate come with a purpose, come from a passion for a given problem. And you slightly, talked a little bit about, your specific areas of passion and purposes. But can we drill a little bit deeper into each of your journeys towards building something that is truly innovative? What was the starting point? Where are you now in that journey? I would love to get, an answer for probably all of you, maybe in the order that we are seated.
Yeah. I used to be a professor of cultural theory, and looking at the history of especially musical instruments and how they were really designed with the latest technology, but only for a very small number of people. And I thought, well, with consumer tech and everything available now, media available, we could actually design musical instruments for everyone else. And so, about 12 years ago, instead of doing the whole tenure track job, which maybe I'll do in the future sometime, I started a company designing hardware instruments and then increasingly software and AR. But it's been amazing. I mean, we launched on Kickstarter. So we were able to kind of tap right into, do people want this? And the answer is yes. More people in the world want to play music than ever, and they actually are. And we keep questioning our own assumptions along the way. And now, especially with AR, instruments don't have to look like what they used to because it actually intimidates most people. And so it's very psychological how we design these things and getting kind of below that intimidation factor and then letting people just touch the sound directly. That's always our design goal. So that's the short path, but that's what drives me, is just getting more people to love playing with sound.
It's amazing.
I love that so much. You're democratizing instruments and kind of lowering the barrier of entry. Contrary to my dress sense, I actually used to be a foreign correspondent. I covered wars like Syria and Congo and Egypt, and I used to travel all around the world covering these conflicts, and I saw there were some major issues in our world. Climate change, hate crimes were on the rise, and I felt like the organizations I was working at, I was at CNN International, for example, were so lacking diversity that they were unable to actually understand what was happening on the front lines of these stories. And the solution to that, I thought, was, what if we could train communities to tell their own stories with mobile devices? So my wife and I, we started this adventure. We traveled around the world. We trained up loads and loads of people how to tell their own stories with mobile phones. And then we were like, whoa, this is really hard. Like, it's actually quite hard to tell a story, right? You gotta have a shot list and a storyboard and interview questions, and there's all these steps that most people don't even think about. And we ended up, at the start of the pandemic, it was just my wife and I. At the end of the pandemic, we had 105 staff around the world who were all just helping people tell stories. And then we realized augmented reality was an incredible tool where suddenly people didn't need to have a script in one hand and a phone in another hand and be drawing out a storyboard. We could put all of those storytelling tools into the camera. And that's where innovation really helped us democratize storytelling.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah, so I really got started into AR just because I thought it was a super exciting technology when I was in grad school. And actually, my entry point into Lens Studio was kind of this crazy story. I just wanted to create an interactive narrative about what if aliens were on Earth and we could somehow figure out and see their presences, if we had like an AI kind of guiding us, maybe like another character in the story. And that's when I realized actually augmented reality was what I wanted to be the way to reveal the unseen, to reveal that those aliens were here on Earth. So that was my first lens that I created called Intraterrestrial. And so that was kind of the way that I got into AR, was that this is the way that I could propel a narrative and make it interactive, make the user the main character, and make them have that story anywhere that they want to be. So it's really interesting that was sort of my entry point of this very artistic and creative side. And now I also really like to think about, education. How can I use AR to help people learn how to take complex subject matter and make it, an interactive experience that helps them really understand that content. So it went from crazy alien story to just really thinking about how can I make more learning tools as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know this was going to be like a university panel here. This is kind of fun. I thought I was done with those. I love what Yusuf said. Everyone has a story. With Flipgrid, when we started it, and this was 2012, I was a professor at the University of Minnesota, and our goal was always to bring the back row to the front. Everyone in the room, everyone in every classroom has something to share, has their learnings that they're proud of. But oftentimes, people that sit back there, maybe because you came in late, so this isn't a great example, you don't sit back there because you don't want to talk. You sit back there because sometimes self-efficacy is a little bit low. You're a little bit nervous to raise your hand. You're a little bit nervous to raise the volume. And that's where we tried to use short-form video to democratize everybody not only sharing their voice, but also respecting the voices of others. And we found that amplified and accelerated in spades once we brought in lenses that I'm sure we'll talk about here.
I love the intersection of democratizing, diversifying, educating. And this truly speaks to your guys' purpose and the passion that you bring to this community as well. But you must probably had an aha moment at some point where we were considering how to solve the specific problems outside the core product, and you were like thinking potentially of using AR, but maybe alternative technologies. At what point did you actually resolve to AR to be that key technology to actually accelerate maybe and make the solution that you were proposing even more applicable to the problem that you were trying to solve. Let's start with you, Charlie.
Yeah, I think 100% it was a community pool. First of all, if you have sunglasses on, you just feel a little bit cooler when you talk, right?
Especially these ones. 'Cause
Especially those,
they have
yes.
screens in them.
You do, but there's something about putting something a little bit in the view. And what we noticed with even a lot of our younger kids, second graders, when they would record on Flipgrid, we had stickers, and they would always drag out these stickers over their video and cover their face a little bit. And over the years, the community pool, the largest ask of our global community, whether they were 13, 4, 40, was to have lenses. Once Snapchat brought lenses to the world, people wanted to have those on Flipgrid. We did not have a team working on AR. AR was very novel effect. It was beyond what our team was working on. And when we started this partnership in 2021, we shared it with a few educators, and they just lit up. And then we shared it with a few students, and they lit up. And as they shared today during the awesome keynote, once we launched AR lenses on the web, we came to mobile first. We saw a 60% increase in 1 month. And it's not that just AR made them create more videos. AR made them proud to hit submit because they weren't nervous about that video as much. And that, to me, if a learner is proud of sharing their voice, our job is pretty amazing. I like the knee clap. It's like a golf conference now. I like to.
That's so cool, Charlie. I was that student that would be, kind of quiet in the classroom. It's kind of funny, because here I am public speaking now, but definitely growing up, I was the shy one, so to have learning tools like that is just awesome. How did I settle on AR? I think that's a really good question of why AR. And I think for me, it's just, especially by using Snapchat, just the reach that you have automatically, right? There's a set community. You're making something that is, to people who are unfamiliar with AR, it could be a possibly challenging technology, but it's not as fully immersive, but kind of also restrictive as something like VR. So AR for me was just really a great way of we already have the world as our canvas. That is something that anyone can relate to, living and breathing in this world. And then being able to overlay content that way is what really makes AR, I think, the most powerful technology in this way.
For me, the aha moment was in 2016, and it's actually quite a sad story. I was in India working with a group of young women that had been sexually assaulted, and they didn't want to show their identities. And we were able to give them our Snapchat phone, and they were able to use the filters to hide their faces and still empower them to tell their stories, to see their eyes and their expressions. And it was that moment where I was like, wow, when you look past the gimmicks and the flower crowns and the doggy tongues, there's a really powerful technology here that we can use to empower people. Then I started looking at in the Weather Channel here in America, you get these always American anchors, and they use this 3D studio, and they're like, the hurricane's gonna be coming through this part of America. And they have this huge setup. And we were just like, what if you could take that kind of tech around weather reporting or climate change and give it to a farmer in Uganda to tell a story? So really, that's where it came from. It came from a place of there is incredibly sophisticated motion graphics that live in the world, and they're really hard to do and expensive, and they live and die in one story. But if you can put it into the Snapchat camera, suddenly hundreds of millions of people around the world can use this stuff, and they can create incredible stories.
This panel's tying together quite nicely, if you can't tell.
I can go.
Yeah. No, please stay. So I believe music is a multisensory experience always. It's not just auditory. It's always visual. It's always tactile or spatial, and it's always social in some way. It's always in that context. And so, for instance, when we designed our hardware instruments, it's about going beyond the screen and figuring out how you can take all this content that's in there and put it in your hands. And there are things that hardware does really well. What we realized with AR a couple years ago is that we can actually treat the world as an instrument, and instead of we're on a stage right now, but if all this was in a more immersive experience, we wouldn't need this stage, right? We could be having this conversation floating around with aliens or whatever. And so what happens when we embed music in a way that's actually interactive in the world, a little more sort of Pokemon Go style fun, and take it away from always needing to be up on stage, having to learn it previously and feel confident enough to do that. And so we're kind of, we're using it actually just to go directly where people already are, the kind of intuitions you're talking about, but to turn on music at each of those moments. I want to work with each of you on this to figure out how can we make every moment musical while you're doing all this other stuff too.
That's awesome. And by the way, if you are inspired by those stories and you want to learn more about the technology, we are hosting 3 hours of dedicated technical sessions just around the corner. It's literally 3 minutes walk. You can stretch a little bit as well, but more importantly, you can get really excited about some of the work that these guys have done with our technology and get a deeper, understanding for how it works and how easy it is to integrate. Okay, we talked about AR as a technology. You guys are all innovators, but you're running a business as well, right? So if I were to ask you to, how do you measure the impact of this integration? How do you basically track the importance that the technology has, not just to the users of the technology, but to you as a business? How would you actually go about measuring it and articulating to investors or anybody
it's
that
so
matters?
interesting. As a publisher, we have 12 shows, we do 1,000 videos a year, and normally a publisher would think in terms of likes and views and shares and the revenue they generate from the videos that they publish, right? Here's how we measure success and how the AR camera has helped us in that endeavor. Think about a flywheel. Think about the idea that you are putting content out into the world, and in that content you are integrating augmented reality. And what that means is your audience watch something on Snapchat, for example, and then they open their camera and they share something. And their share becomes the next piece of content, a flywheel. And what we saw was when we started integrating augmented reality into our stories and our audience became our creators, in the course of a year, we doubled the amount of content that we were able to produce. We went from 500 videos a year to 1,000 videos a year, which effectively meant we doubled our revenue. And yet, we didn't have to, hire a fundamentally bigger team. We were simply able to use this technology to scale something that was really hard to scale before.
That's amazing. Wow. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah,
not that Microsoft needs a lot of money, but
we at least on the flip side, what we tend to do is we balance the product metrics and all of our OKRs for growth, the success of the product with the community stories. So when we brought AR lenses into our iOS app, which is both on the iPad, a lot of classrooms have iPads, as well as iOS, where the students were recording at home, we saw nearly a 2.5 increase within a month. Again, where people are just a little bit more confident when they hit submit. And that means everything for us. Like when they finally hit submit, because as Yusuf said, it kicks off that story and people comment and record another one, and there's a communication loop. But we balance that with the community stories. And what we talk to teachers of all grade levels all around the world, and the key components that we've heard that AR brought into Flip, that honestly, as both an educator and a product maker, make me have goosebumps, is learners feel more confident. That's a big one. Teachers strive to achieve that. Learners feel more included or inclusive. We have a lot of lenses in the camera. We brought in, I think one of our very first lenses was Black History Month. We're not only to have a Black History Month lens on you, but it's kids talking about what Black History Month means to them, their family, their school, and then the lens is only amplifying that story. We have Women's History Month, we had Hispanic History Month, we have Pride lenses, and it makes these kids feel a little bit more included because they can find themselves in that narrative. But even more so, they're creative. To engage in a creative session through AR is magic, and then they're more proud. And that bigger pride at the end means, yep, I'm going to submit that, and that makes the classroom more engaging, just more self-efficacious, where everybody's believing in everyone else, and it's magic. I mean, it's just, I know lenses are magic, and we all saw that this morning.
We believe that.
But in a learner's hands, it's pretty special.
That's awesome. And Mike?
I'll say for us, it's actually opened up new business models. So we've been working with labels and artists for years and really transforming songs into interactive media in various ways. But now that we're working in AR, we're working with brands as well. And we're kind of becoming this connection point maybe in a similar way that the Super Bowl tends to bring brands and artists together, but we're doing so in a way that promotes user-generated content, right? So brands can create experiences that are musical that keep people engaged longer than they might if they were just static, pasted on brand experiences. These are things people actually want to play with, and the groove kind of locks them in, and the visuals make it fun and maybe less intimidating. You can hide behind your glasses, and so we're finding that not only are we increasing awareness for artists, we got 15 million plays on our lenses we launched 2 months ago with Snap that are all artist lenses. These are actually up-and-coming artists who would never get that reach before. But by tying them together with brands, we also have new revenue streams to support the artists and hopefully support the business. So we wouldn't have been able to do that if we were just sticking with our own tech. This is really possible with AR.
This is awesome. So thinking ahead, where do you think AR will transform your business? Because we have proven in this panel that it can be transformative for music creation, for communicating and diversifying opinions, for education, for expression within education, and so on and so on. But within the experiences that you have developed leveraging the technology, where do you think the future holds for the technology? And as as innovators, I would trust you to have a lot more insights about what works and what doesn't not. So I'm trying to be a little bit selfish so that I can inform our products and our roadmap a little bit. So let's start with Maya this time.
Oh, what do I think about the future? I think it's definitely going to be head-mounted displays. So exciting sitting next to you with the spectacles on. I think once we can take AR out of the phone and to really have that 360 view, that's what's going to be the level up, next level of AR for sure.
There's so many companies that are billion-dollar businesses, Amazon and Netflix and Uber and Lyft and all these companies that were built on Web 2, right? And they were built on the QWERTY keyboard being the primary inputs technology. And that sucks, to be honest, right? We're all not very present in the world. I have no doubt in my mind that in the 3-year period, the camera is going to become the primary inputs technology, and we already saw that happen during COVID. You scanned menus to pay for them, and we've never moved back, right? And in the longer term, 5-6-year period, we start to move to these. So there will be a whole bunch of new companies, billion-dollar businesses that will be born into the camera-first Web3 world. That's what's really exciting to me. And the really, really, really unique thing right now is that the stuff that we're building on the mobile phone today also works on the wearables of tomorrow. The thing people forget is the jump from broadcast in online was not the biggest jump. Whether you're writing an article in a newspaper or writing it online, it's the same thing, right? This is a huge shift. It is like creating digital assets and 3D and coding. And it's the organizations that are putting the building blocks in place today, laying the train track today, that are going to be ready to kind of fly into that future.
Let's go to Charlie and then Mike.
I think one of the things I was really inspired by this morning is just how the ecosystem of Snap has grown. And empowering all of creators, that many of you in the audience, empowering businesses in unique ways that probably they never imagined before. The trying on clothes and envisioning yourself on how you're going to look without maybe the nervousness of going in to see it. That's cool. I could see all of that, empowering creators come into the classroom. And I think one of the biggest opportunities, we found it incredibly easy. If anybody hasn't opened up Lens Studio and started making a lens, just do it. You can do it. You don't need any prior, CS degree or experience. Go create something and then start playing around and trying it on. I would love for learners of all ages around the world to become lens creators. And actually, kind of like Scene, but tell their local story, tell their cultural story, tell their school story they're learning by creating lenses, and then share it with learners halfway around the world. So when you're doing these units and you're learning about Spain, it'd be great to actually connect with other students in Spain, record videos with the lenses that they created, and just feel that smaller kind of part of being a part of that culture or being in that location. And I think empowering learners to create is the next big opportunity I see, at least for our side of the world.
This would be amazing. That would be our, dream.
So I'm fundamentally a user interface designer, so I think I'm going to answer this question through that kind of lens. When I see my AI and everything else going on right now, especially with AI. It's this explosion, I think, is because of the prompt box. It's because we've finally given a way for normal people to have a user interface for AI that makes it interpretable, accessible. My mom can use it. It's normal now, just like sending a text. So, you know, my perspective is if we can harness these new tools that, like for instance with music, in the very near future, nearer than any of us probably want to believe, you're going to be able to make any music that you want to instantly. And so the question is, how do you want to do it? If the whole world is available at your fingertips, what do your fingers actually want to do? And so I think the challenge and then the future that happens from that is in these UX and UI conversations, what are the human interfaces that can relate with the basically these intelligences out there, or these abilities to create, and how can we actually make them human and ways that people want to behave rather than just coding, or like you're saying with Lens Studio, it's so easy, it's a great UI. You know, I want to do the same for music, basically.
And hopefully AR provides that sort of interface that you were looking for, right?
Yeah, totally.
So we are almost at time, so I don't want to let you go without probably sharing with this group one key takeaway that you want them to take from this conversation. And obviously remind them that they have to go to the Flying Museum, right? Should be a key takeaway. But outside that, like, you have a lot of people here that are probably interested about your experiences, your ability to innovate, your ability to build successful business. So if there is one thing that they should take away, what would that be? Maya?
Yeah, so again, I want to echo, use Lens Studio, just get in there. I think it is a great tool for at least for my creative process, not just the actual, you know, creating a robust Lens experience, but also just ideation and rapid prototyping. It has allowed me to take so many ideas and just put them on paper. So I couldn't have done that whole crazy alien story without Lens Studio. I couldn't make a lens where I could use ML to track recycling codes and then be able to pop up information about how we can better recycle plastic. I couldn't, you know, make a data visualization about deforestation without having to kind of see it first, and you already can send it into the world and start getting some feedback. You have a kind of user testing built in for you. So definitely get into Lens Studio. And the last thing I wanted to say is also just kind of going back to your question of why AR. I think the creation process, the innovation process is twofold, right? One hand is be experimental, try crazy things, but then always go back to the question, why AR? Why are you using this technology? What about the technology allows that idea to come to life? Why couldn't it have been a website or VR? Like, why does it have to be AR? And if you are both bringing some enhancement to your idea by using AR, and you are also pushing the boundaries of the technology itself, that's what takes your idea from interesting to innovative. Thank you.
Mike?
Oh, sure. Hey, that was just really good. Thank you. For me, I'm able to just keep doing this because I fundamentally believe in this opportunity for other people. I have, as a musician, like I grew up playing violin, right? I can play violin, I've got it, but the majority of other people don't have it. That's what drives me, is finding out what other people need and just designing things for them. And I feel like if you can keep doing that, if you can keep finding the people who don't have what they desire yet, you can probably design a way for them to get it. So it's very noble.
A lot of my innovations come from a place of frustration, right? I hate my phone. I hate traveling around and looking down at the world, even when I'm looking for directions. So I'm like, okay, can AR allow me to look back up out at the world? I think looking at your existing behavior and the way you engage with technology and looking at places where you're like, oh, that's a really frustrating way to buy something. That's a really frustrating way to search for something. Can we make that smarter, faster, cheaper using the camera? I think those are the applications where AR makes the most sense.
Try something crazy. That's hard to top that. I think, you know, historically, Snap has changed the way we communicate and we connect. And I think when we look back on it, especially for teenagers, it has shifted that in meaningful ways that we've never seen. And what I was excited about today is the fusion of AI and AR. I've connected with my teenage daughter in such unique ways because of Snap that probably she wouldn't even text me anymore. But she'll snap me 4 times while I'm here getting my new Nike kicks. Like she's jealous of that. But the second I showed her in Snapchat Plus what AI and AR is, immediately she opened it up, wanted Shrek on a beach in a bathing suit to put behind her emoji and sent it to everyone. I didn't have to explain it. She was creating in unique new ways, threading it into that AR plus AI. But for most of the community, that's just a blend. It's a seamless blend. It's not one tech or the other. It's the way they create.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
us.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everybody.